Hey guys, how's it going? Danny Fitzy here, and today I'm going to be showing you my Armageddon Brand Elementalist that I've been playing recently. This character originally started out as like a Firestorm, because with the Celestial Firestorm MTX came out, and I was really trying to get Firestorm to work. I tried a few setups, but eventually I tried like Arcanist Brand Firestorm, so doing brands with Firestorm, and it felt pretty good. And then I was just like, let's just throw an Armageddon Brand, see how that feels, since it's already basically the same thing, but it's, you save a link and all that good stuff. And it just felt so much better, especially for mapping. You throw in Swift Brand support on Arcanist Brand with the cast speed we're scaling on this build because of like the Lightning Golem and having all the buffs. And you just get insane cast speed, and it just feels so like responsive and quick, and does a lot of freaking damage, to be honest. It's pretty respectable even on single target, which you'll see in a minute here. We down a Phoenix, I'd say, within a respectable time, and this isn't even like min-max. I got a couple of nice pieces of gear. I'd say my rings and my chest are pretty good. My weapon can be a lot better, but it's pretty decent as is. You could definitely double the damage of this build pretty easily. And you can see here, we just slapping him down. Can't really see anything in this fight because we basically matched the fucking the MTX in this whole fight. I don't know what I'm calling MTX. We matched the aesthetic. Kind of blends in. But it's fairly respectable. And then you can just swap in Arcanist Brand Firestorm in this current setup. It does work pretty well. I did a map here. I get two, but I'm only going to show you one. I'll show you the one where I use Swift Brand support. I did another map after. I swapped out Swift Brand support for like a big damage support. Just to have like more damage rather than quicker casts. But it didn't feel any better, to be honest, and it felt worse for mapping because obviously there's a delay. Firestorm has this kind of awkward delay. So does Armageddon Brand, but you can scale Armageddon Brand to be so much more faster. So it's almost instant, to be honest. There is like a slight delay, but like the Firestorm you can feel the delay. Like you kind of have to pre-fire it, or just cast it and make sure you don't run forwards before it's landed, because you'll run into a pack of mobs, probably get like autoed by all of them and then die, because this guy isn't exactly the tankiest character in the world. He's kind of got like a band-aid defense right now with Corrupted Soul, but there's definitely room to make him tankier, or even go full ES if you want to, but I haven't done that. As soon as I put the Corrupted Soul on, I was able to do like tier 16s, which is kind of weird. I don't even have like a Cinder Swallow or anything to get my ES back, so it just kind of goes to show you how broken Corrupted Soul is. If you don't know what that is, it's like a keystone you get from a Timeless Jewel, and you can also get it on a replica belt. It basically gives you 20% of your life as extra ES, and then 50% of all damage bypasses ES. So it sounds in theory not so great, but in gameplay and the way it actually works, it almost acts like a mind over matter, like a 50% mind over matter on your health. So even at 4k health here, other than the chaos damage, which you have to worry about anyway because you usually don't scale chaos damage, you don't. It's just insane like how much defense it gives you for like very little investment. You can either just slap on the belt or just buy the Timeless Jewel, and it costs like maybe 3 or 4 points depending on your tree. And you can also get some other benefits from using the jewel as well, because it can affect notables and nodes all around it, so you can get idea. But you can see this boss moves around a lot, so like the Firestorms can't like all just sit on top of the boss, which is really what you want, because this skill does so much more damage on the first impact, which is why it will probably in the end game for like pure single target have the best DPS single target. But I think Armageddon Brand just feels better. You can even cast it. Look how quick we can cast our brands out. That's not even like full. Obviously, when we're in a map and we're used up a little bit with our onslaught and that, it feels a lot better. Just to show you the quick POB breakdown of it, I've actually made a slight change here that I need to make in game because I made more damage. But we're about 1.5 million on Cyrus with respectable boxes ticked. This is with the more damage that we get from our Elementalist buff when we're hitting a unique. With inspiration charges up, with power charges up, we're scaling power charges in this build, so they're perma up. Inspirations are permanently up. He's on consecrated ground. We're using a Zealotry, so in theory, as long as the boss is not moving around too much, they should be stood on consecrated ground. So it is a little bit of a damage increase there. Obviously, look, we're on Cyrus here. The fire exposure type is on fire because we can easily just wave a conviction them and get insane minus res on them because the Elementalist with 2 brands and 6 activated, you're about 1.5 million Cyrus DPS. Obviously, this is not including burst, so this is not including your flasks being up. So maybe if you've killed or crit recently, anything like that. Maybe if you have tailwind. We don't even have onslaught on. Like, this is really bare bones damage. So this is a very consistent number that you're going to be putting out. And obviously at the end of a map, when you're carrying a lot more of this extra juice that you could tick on, you're probably doubling that, maybe even tripling that damage. So obviously I'll put a link to this down below so you can see it. But what we'll do is we'll check everything in game instead because it's a little bit easier to see. So let's dive into what we're setting up with. I'm not going to talk about the Firestorm setup. Essentially, all you do is you swap out Armageddon Brand for Arcanist Brand, which is basically an Arcanist Brand is a brand skill that will activate any skill it's linked with. You basically throw it in there, and then you have to sacrifice one of your damage supports. I was sacrificing Swift Brand or Controlled Destruction because obviously it comes with reduced crit as well. So you're gaining that crit back, so you're not losing as much damage as say if you move like Ellie Focus, and we don't need to afflict ignites because we can ignite with our Wave of Conviction to proc combustion, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, so Armageddon Brand goes in. Just make sure you got 21 as well. Make sure you've always got a 21 spell if you can, if they're not mega expensive, because that's a lot of damage you can get there on a plus level. Which brings me on to the staff. Let's talk about the gear. So we've got a +3 locked in here. That's a fractured mod. I bought that specifically because I wanted to craft my own staff, but the staff I kind of bought already, as you can see here, is pretty good. It's T1 fire damage to spells and T2 cast. I have some remove add crits. I could potentially get that increased crit up. I think maybe going an Eclipse staff for the global crit as well might be a little bit overkill, and you might be better off with like a block staff and scaling a little bit of block for some an extra layer of defense. I think maybe going gung-ho on the crits maybe a bit too much, because we have no other layer of defense in this build. We don't have no fortify, we don't have no block. We're basically just using Corrupted Soul and just hoping we kill stuff before it kills us. So if you want to be tankier, I'd definitely maybe think about scaling some block on a staff, or trying to fit like fortify in there. Maybe that'd be a cast on damage taken, and it procs like, I think it's Vengeance you can use to proc like that, and it hits, and then you get like fortify proc. Obviously we're not using a shield. I mean, you could go wand and shield here and get like a +1 wand, a +1 shield with some spell damage and all that good stuff on it. And then you can use a shield charge with fortify for like some extra damage mitigation. But we've gone full balls to the walls here. But yeah, basically all you're looking for is that +3. You can also get +2 of all spells, and you can get them together, but that's really expensive. So top end, I suppose, get like a +5 staff. That's your biggest damage. Then you probably want the cast speed, and then you want a spare prefix so you can put on the spell damage plus the non-chaos extra chaos, because that's huge. That's a lot of extra chaos damage you can get. That's not even the T1 roll. I have the T1 roll. I think it's from Unveils. But the T1 roll's an Exalt, and I didn't want to put an Exalt craft on a staff I was potentially going to craft over. I think I'm just going to harvest craft this one up by just remove adding crit. Maybe hit multi. Multi could be better at this point. I mean, 44 crit to spell is like nothing because we're scaling power charges, so we get a lot of our crit from power charges. So I think maybe going crit multi would be a lot better for damage. Plus, when we have done the flask up, we're probably almost crit capped, honestly, with consecrated ground and all that good stuff. So yeah, so that's a pretty baseline staff right there. This cost me like 2 or 3x, and probably cost more just because it's got fractured in, a really good fractured in mod. If you just got that without the fracture, pretty good. You can also look at like shaper staffs, because you can get like the Ellie as extra or the fire damage as extra. And then there's also a lot of power charge stuff for staffs that you give you like increased damage per power charge. Another one, you can also get +1 power charge. Could be pretty good for this build. Just scaling some power charge damage, all that good stuff. So it's a pretty good staff. Doesn't have to be that good. As long as you get like the +3 and some cast speed and a spare prefix, you're good to go, I'd say. And then obviously after that, you can sky's the limit. For the helmet, you probably want to try and get a +1. They're a little bit expensive to get a +1 with anything else on it, unfortunately, or you can try roll it. It's very low weighting, so it's a bit of a pain in the arse, and alteration orbs are very expensive at the moment, so it's probably why things like this very expensive, and there's no way to guarantee it, I don't believe, in Harvest anymore because they removed the crit tag. So yeah, bit of a bummer, but obviously just life resists. You can also get plus level golems on a helmet, so you can socket some of your golems in there and get a little slight extra buff on your golems, since they are your big source of like your damage and your defense here, because we're scaling the golem nodes here, which we'll talk about when we talk about the Ascendancy. But golems are a big part of the build, so definitely getting some plus levels on the golems will not hurt. But yeah, I recommend +1. And then life resists. The minions having an increased life here is just a nice little bit of gravy there, I suppose, on the side, because it just stops them from dying so easily, especially in sticky situations like a big Meraketh Legion. You'll probably notice they will get absolutely seen off, unfortunately. You just have to make sure when they're down you play way more defensively, because you lose a lot of buffs there, so be careful of that. And then you can also get like minus res, like minus fire res if you're nearby an enemy. But the brand playstyle, it allows you just to run around in circles and just be an idiot while you're doing damage off screen. So you probably don't really need that. And an enchant, honestly, I think like the golem buff effect ones are probably the best one. The lightning golem one specifically, because we're getting a bunch of our cast speed from the lightning golem. So if we buff that even further, then we get even insane cast speed, and cast speed makes the Armageddon brand proc quicker. So that's the activation frequency it's called on a brand. So it basically just means it's attacking quicker. So it just goes dum 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 dum, you know, as it is. And that's what Swift brand does. It gives you more activation as well. So we're really like absolutely hammering down them meatballs, which are funny and good damage. So there it is. Then we've got a crappy amulet. Basically just looking for like life multi, some resistance, some attributes. If you want to go big guns to the wall. Wait, what's the saying? Got the saying. I've actually butchered that. But if you want to go big dick, you can get like +1 of int gems, and you can also get +1 of spell gems or something. I think there's 2 different types of +1s you can get on the different influences, and you can slam them together with an Awakened Orb and get like a +2 basically. Plus, obviously, then you can easily like harvest craft that up with life and crit, which is pretty insane. That's what I'm going to be looking to do. Your next best option after that, for a cheap option, I think it's cheap anyway, is the Primordial Chain Amulet, which gives you another 3 golems. So obviously them 3 golems is like another 100% golem buff effect. So that's going to give you buffs across. It's going to give you cast speed, damage reduction, physical damage reduction, crit, generic damage, and life regen. But it also makes the golems like a little bit squishier, and they deal no damage. They're not dealing damage anyway, so that's a bit irrelevant. And obviously you can't then get like any multi or extra attributes on there. So, but since, as you can see here, we're using no uniques at the moment, resists aren't really a problem, so you can easily slap in another extra 1 or 2 uniques into this build without really worrying about resistances and stuff. So there is options there. I guess you could potentially use an Avatar of Fire. What's it called? I don't remember the name of the amulet that covers them in ash. I'm pretty sure I have one. Azov's Blood gives life, resists, strength, a lot of strength, damage pen, and it also covers them in ash, which means there's a 20% more multiplier because it's 20% increased damage taken on the mob. It gives you Avatar of Fire, so you just have to be careful that, Armageddon Brand by itself is pure fire anyway, so I don't see the problem here with using Avatar Fire. You just have to make sure you don't get like fire as extra chaos. All this non-chaos as extra chaos would be rendered useless if you use this, because obviously you deal no non-fire damage, so we deal no chaos. There's a bit of cold there, as you can see on our spell as well, because of our ring. So you just have to make sure, well, 50% of that would get converted with Avatar Fire, but just make sure you're careful if you're going to use that, and just make sure like you're not scaling any other damage that's just going to be completely cut off by that. And that could be a big damage increase, especially for like single target and stuff. My current setup right now just creams like T16 maps. The big upgrades that I can get now is just purely for single target. Then our chest, we've got quite a nice chest, big life roll. An additional curse is the main thing we're looking for here, so we can apply Assassin's Mark and Flammability, so we get minus res and then like some extra crit and some crit multi. And then we got +1 spell crit, probably not necessary. You can maybe go Explodey Chest, Frenzy Charge on hit, I would say is probably better because we're not really scaling the Frenzy at all. I mean, if you got Avatar of Fire, maybe the Explodey Chest is alright because it's going to convert 50% of its damage to fire, and then obviously we're scaling all that fire. So it would probably do more damage, honestly, even though it's like getting cut in half because of Ellie scaling. But, I mean, there's a lot of options on the chest. You can even maybe fucking go like a replica or a unique here, maybe like a Combs Heart if you can afford to drop some jewels. But since we got to use like 5 for golems, going to Combs Heart's pretty too tight, I would say. You have to lose some gems. Go like with a 1 link like Flame Dash and 1 link Brand Recall and like a 1 link Wave of Conviction. Otherwise, you just don't have enough sockets. But it will give you a shit ton of life. So there's another way to bust the defense higher. But yeah, additional curse is what I went for, so we can apply 2 curses and get big damn. And we've got a nice life roll on here. Preferably, I would like to remove this mana roll. Unfortunately, you can't. Harvest isn't that OP. So if you had a spare prefix here, I could roll the maximum life as ES, so I get another 10% for the Corrupted Soul, and then it'd be even tankier. So that's something to look out for as well. But yeah, chest is pretty flexible there. There's a lot of cool mods you can get on chest now, and with Awakener's Orbs and Harvest, sky's the limit there as well. And then we've got a Curse on Hit Flammability Ring. Basically just some life resists. Got some mana cost reduction since this costs quite a lot. You can see I've still got quite a lot of mana left to play with as well. But as you can see, like, you chunk into it pretty hard. And obviously when you recall as well, it does a percent cost of the brands. You can also get Curse on hit as a implicit. As you can hear, this is a Frostbite example from my next build, but this just gives you an idea. You can get this with, say, Flammability on hit, then you have a free ring to craft on, and they're pretty cheap. That was 60c for Frostbite, so I don't know what Flammability would be. Obviously, if you buy it uncrafted, it's probably going to be a lot cheaper. If you buy one that's already crafted with life and damage and stuff on it, then it might be more expensive, but pretty cheap to get that. If you don't have that, you can get Curse on hit on your Wave of Conviction with Combustion, and then you drop some other stuff. So apply it manually, but obviously Flammability goes on every mob. Whereas Assassin's Mark only applies on uniques and rares, so it's a bit more of a pain in the arse. So I'd rather just have this automatic, which is why we got it on a ring. This is a really nice ring. This ring was like 5 or 6x. You probably only need the Assassin's Mark and probably some life and any attributes or resist that you're requiring, if you can get that. The like T1 cold damage to spells is like not really necessary, but it's nice. Cold damage, you know, we probably doing some shatters and stuff. Although I don't see stuff getting frozen because I think we're using Ellie Focus. Yeah, so I mean we're not getting elements anyway. So that's just a slight bit of damage. It's not necessary at all. Obviously for me it was just again a bunch of strength, some life, and that Assassin's Mark. So that's a pretty nice ring, but yeah, you only need like 2 of the mods on there. But they still work pretty well. Then we're using some pretty crap generic fingerless silk gloves because they give spell damage and implicit, and then it's just got life resist. Obviously you can get some like hunter gloves with unnerve on hit, which is a 10% more damage taken, or like on the mob, so it's a multiplier. You can also get like a +1 frenzy if you have a way of generating frenzy, say on the chest. You get +1 frenzy for some extra cast speed and some more damage. And you can also get like a culling strike pair of gloves, so you get 10% more damage. Basically everything gets culled at 10%. That'd be really sick. And you can obviously combine those with Awakener's Orb if you're rich, and get like a culling strike unnerved pair of gloves on fucking fingerless silk gloves, and just have a sick pair of gloves, you know. Yeah, that's entirely up to you. And Harvest exists as well, so you know the sky's the limit, as I've said like 3 or 4 times now. The belt, pretty crap. It's alright actually. It's just a bunch of life resists. You can obviously use the replica Soul Tether belt. I forgot what it's called now. So you don't have to. I think it's called Soul Tether actually. So you can get this on the belt, and you get another extra like 6% as life as ES. So you can save like 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Essentially, this is just a dead point. I need to respec this. You're gonna witness it right now. 5% more damage plus cast speed. So, so yeah, you can do that on the belt. Obviously, a Stygian Vise give you an Abyssal Socket, so you can get like phasing or onslaught on kill. I'm probably going to end up using a Cinder Swallow, so I'd get like phasing on kill, and then you know, life, some damage mods. Multi is, you know, flat damage. Get whatever you can. Make some nice jewels. So yeah, that's entirely up to you. There's obviously some really nice influence mods you can get on belt, like some increased life on a hunter. I guess there's ES stuff on a Crusader belt, but we probably just want to scale the life since it's scaling the ES anyway if you're using Corrupted Souls. So yeah, and then obviously you can get early damage as well. You can also get, that's it, I think you have to get early damage on like a specific influence. Now you can't get through fossils, so whichever one gives you cold, it's probably Redeemer, not fire, Warlord for fire. Sorry, losing my mind here. And we have a really basic pair of two-tone boots. We've not even got Tailwind or even Elusive on that. I think either or is good. If you get both, and Awaken or of that bitch together, then it's really good. Otherwise, you're just looking for move speed, life. Personally, I think not Onslaught, Elusive would be better because it's going to give you defense plus a little bit extra move speed, whereas Tailwind only really gives you move speed because even though it gives you 10% more action speed, which you think that's cast speed, right? It will be cast speed as you put them down, but it won't give you activation because it's not. That is, I think it's pretty calculated separately, unfortunately. Obviously, if this was a skill that we cast and it hit, then Tailwind would be better. But since this is a skill we put down and then it does its own thing, Tailwind doesn't affect that once it's down, I don't believe. At least that's how I believe it to function. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the description in the comments below. But yeah, so. And then for enchants, you're probably looking at this one. Cast speed if you've killed recently, it's very nice. You can also get damage penetration if you haven't killed recently, good for botting. Honestly, it's probably better than this. This cast speed's probably a little overkill, to be honest, at this point. But if you want to go full memes, then just get cast speed everywhere. And then what else is there? There's move speed if you haven't been hit recently, if you want to go a little bit faster. Fire damage if you've killed recently. Cold damage if you've been hit recently. I mean, most of the boot enchants are pretty decent. They do something. They're not completely useless. Dodge ones and the mana regen and the life regen ones, not even terrible because we are scaling a bit of life regen. So honestly, you can just say what you get, to be honest. If you don't like running lab, you can just slap some boots with some enchanted fossils a little bit and just take whatever comes up that seems half decent. That's what I did with these. And move on with your life, you know. So that's the gear. And then quickly just the flasks here. We got obviously a bleed immune flask, so die. We've got an onslaught flask with curse removal because we're ailment immune because of the golems. So we just want curse removal basically. That's left really to cover. Or maybe you get poison immune as well, since poison will bypass ES. So we are very squishy to chaos damage. You can also get a Ziri's Promise for some chaos damage, and it gives you early as extra as long as you're not using Avatar of Fire. That's a lot of damage. But yeah, I'd swap this out for a Cinder Swallow later on. A crit Cinder Swallow is going to be much better, and it's going to give you the life instantly back when you kill packs of mobs. It's just delicious for mapping. Obviously a move speed flask, got to go fast. We're using a mana flask at the moment, but obviously once we get a Cinder Swallow in there, you can probably drop this. You'll have enough mana to like put all your brands out, run around for a bit. Once they start dropping off, cast them all again for single targets, so you probably won't need a mana flask. Plus obviously Arcane Surge and some other buffs give you a little bit more mana regen, so we can definitely drop that. And then we got Diamond Flask. Obviously we're a crit build, so it just helps to fill out that extra bit of crit. At some point, if you max your crit out, you can drop this and maybe put in a Bold Faith, since that's going to give you a shit ton of crit, and probably hit the cap with a Bottled Faith. I have a Bottled Faith, so I might try on this build, but I've tried to keep it self-contained. You know, I hate swapping all my gear over, so when I make a new character, I try to use different gear so I don't have to swap it over. But yeah, I'm not going to be buying a second Bottled Faith or a second Cinder Swallow, so that will be tested at some point. In terms of gem links, we got Armageddon Brand, Inspiration Support, Power Charge on Crit, Control Destruction, Ellie Focus, and Swift Brand Support. This is your biggest, like, more multiplier on the skill, because it just gives so much, essentially, cast speed. It's called Activation Frequency here because that's what the cast speed is scaling on a brand, but It's essentially a more multiplier to the cast speed, so it just like doubles, triples the amount of like how quickly the brand is casting Armageddon. Is that the correct way of saying that? I have no idea. Obviously, inspiration, reduced mana cost, more damage, more early damage, and increased crit. So very nice there. Power charge and crit. This is the only way we have reliably to generate our power charges. We are stacking like 7 power charges, so the more damage per power charge is not completely lost on us. There are better gems in terms of just raw DPS, but we need that power charge. So you can get power charge on crit as an influence mod. So if you want to do that instead, that will work and you'll free up a slot. But obviously you either have to give up one of your influence mods, or go massive dick with Harvest and slam on another influence mod. Like with Harvest in the game, anything's possible really if you've got the time. Control destructions, more spell damage, the reduced crit. Basically we override that with how much crit we have. Not really doing too much there. Ellie focus, obviously 48% or 49% if you scale this up. More damage, insane. But we can't inflict ailments, but it doesn't matter because our combustion minus res is coming from wave. Talk about in a second. And like I said, Swift Brand. If you want to use Firestorm, you obviously put Arcanist Brand and Firestorm in here. Swift Brand's not as good in that situation, I don't think, personally. You can probably swap that out for like a damage, or swap that out for the Firestorm, because obviously Arcanist Brand needs the Arcanist Brand and the Firestorm gem, so you're already 2 links down, unfortunately, which is another reason why it's probably not as good as Armageddon Brand, because you lose that, and plus Arcanist Brand also has a less multiplier on it, so yeah, it kind of scuffs you from the beginning. And why does this always happen? Why do big sales always come through? Obviously, it's not a big sale. I think we'll sell the pee pee poo poo real quick while we're multitasking here, and then we won't do any more. I promise. I know this is like I'm breaking rule 1 of making any. You should be on D&D. Sorry. And then in our helmet, we have our Wave of Conviction setup, which by itself, Wave of Conviction is obviously given the exposure of -25, and then when it crits and ignites, it's going to give -19, so that's about, we're already at like, what, 45%? Plus Mastermind of Discord, and you have another -25 plus Flammability. You are pretty much minusing the resistance of a mob by about 100 almost. I'm rounding up a little bit there, just so it's easier to understand how fucking strong this node is, plus Wave of Conviction, plus Combustion, plus Flammability. Obviously, you could drop Assassin's Mark for Ellie weakness and do that, or grab extra 1 up here and then apply the Ellie weakness somewhere somehow and just go full fucking no resistance, absolutely minus. If you don't know in this game, you can go into minus resistances, so obviously getting any sort of minus resistance is always extremely strong. So there it is. You can't do that with Fizz though, so Fizz doesn't do that, but this does. So that's our Wave of Conviction, Combustion there. So as soon as we hit any mob with that, we just throw a couple of those out, and it does majority of fire damage, so it'll proc fire exposure. You can also get Corrosive Elements on a cluster jewel, which has a chance on hit to do it. Where that'll obviously only apply like a -10%, I think, so it's like a -35%, but it's a bit more automated, so it's nicer. But we've also got Ice Bite in there just to, when we kill some mobs, we get some frenzies while we're mapping, which is quite nice. This won't really be up when we're fighting bosses, so it doesn't really matter too much. Then all our golems are in our chest in a 6-link, linked to a minion life support. Not really necessary, they don't have to be linked at all, so you can just get 1 6-link setup, and then it just makes them a little bit tankier, a little bit more durable, so why not? The less they die, the more smooth the build feels. So then we've got Second Wind, Flame Dash, Brand, Recall, and Arcane Surge. So every time we Flame Dash, we get Arcane Surge, which is 10% of it, around 10% more damage, depending on how much you have it leveled up. I like to have it really low level, so it procs off every cast. And then when we recall as well, recall our brands, which I probably want, because it's the brands to your side. And with Armageddon Brand, it also activates them when you activate them, so you get like a big slam, and they overlap, so you can actually do some big burst damage if you want to get stuck in there. Usually don't want to do that, but in rituals, you can just keep casting them on top of you and doing some big damage, so it's quite nice. Easy setup there. Obviously, Second Wind just gives you a Flame Dash, 4 charges. It doesn't give Brand Recall another charge, but it does cooldown recovery rate because of that the first line there. So you do get a bit of a cooldown recovery, so it's worth linking it together. And then our auras, we've got Enlighten, Vitality, Herald of Ash, and Vitality. Zealotry. I completely balls that one up. Let me do that again. We got Enlighten, Vitality, Herald of Ash, and Zealotry. Zealotry is a more multiplier plus some spell crit, and it gives Consecrated Ground. If mobs are on Consecrated Ground, we obviously get healed as well, plus our golems get life regen when they're on Consecrated Ground. And mobs take increased crit chance. They have increased crit chance while on Consecrated Ground, so it's a win-win-win-win everywhere, so it's worth. And then we're using Vitality for some extra regen. Since we're doing this Corrupted Soul memes, it's worth to have some a decent amount of regen. Unlike the Inquiz, we don't get the regen applied to our ES, but we do have a little bit of spell damage leached as ES, so we can get that back pretty reliably. Plus the Stone Golem, we got quite a lot of regen and some clusters, which I'm about to show you in a minute. Obviously, Enlighten just saves up some more mana. Herald of Ash gives you 13% more spell fire damage. The Fizz's extras do nothing for us, and the burning damage is irrelevant really because we're not really scaling that, and we don't even proc ignite with our Armageddon Brand because they're early focus. But yeah, it's 13% more damage for a 25% reservation. It's pretty strong. You get MTX with it. It's a win-win really, isn't it? So you can also get the rings, the Circle of Anguish. Maybe if you want to throw one of those on for some big rolls there. And then the tree, we're obviously Elementalist, so we've obviously got Mastermind of Discord. Like I said, this is huge minus res that we get when we inflict exposure, especially with Wave of Conviction, because it already has minus 25 on it, plus the Combustion, it's already got like minus 45, so this alone without Flammability takes their resistance down by like 70 or like 60, so it's really strong. Then Heart of Destruction, probably the bread and butter of the Elementalist nowadays with the rework. You get that 60% increased area when you haven't hit a unique mob recently. So basically you have this thing called Convergence, and then when you hit a mob, it grants the Convergence or something, and then you get 30% more elemental damage, which lasts 4 seconds. But you can't have this. There's no more than every 8 seconds. So if you don't kill the mob within 4 seconds, you're going to lose like 30% damage. But, you know, still very strong, and it's just automated, and it feels so smooth. I love it. And then we've gone Golem memes because it's just extremely strong. You can take like Shaper of Storms and then go Bastion of Elements and be a little bit tankier because this is going to give you like a 3,000 to 4,000 elemental shield, and this is just going to give you like 50% more damage baseline. Obviously, you hit harder, you'll shock harder, you'll do more damage, so it's extremely strong as well. But I reckon the Golems, they give you a lot of damage, and they give you a lot of buff effects and stuff that you don't get elsewhere, like being ailment immunity, because it gives you 35% chance per Golem. We have 5 Golems, so we're well over that. So even if 1 or 2 dies, we're still good. If we only have 2 or less, then we have to be worried. Basically, we don't get frozen, we don't get ignited, we don't get shocked, which is sick in this game. And then we also get increased damage per Golem summoned. They also respawn when they die now automatically, which is really nice. And I mean, they just give insane buff effects. So we obviously scale this. We use an Anima Stone for another +1. So you have baseline +1, +1 there, +1 there, +1 here, and then +1 up here. So you have 5 in total. And obviously, if you use the Amulet, you get like another +3 or something. And these themselves, this one gives insane crits. It's giving like 90 crit. You basically triple the effects of these, like a baseline. So it's like 90 crit, 300 life regen, 30% cast speed, 60% increased damage, 20% fizz reduction. I think it's 22 actually, I remember checking that. And it's just insane how hard they scale. And they're pretty tanky once they're leveled up, and you get quality on them, so they're not just constantly dying, which is really nice. And so for the tree, pretty basic tree. We've actually taken the cast speed out of the Witch Start. I've gone for any spell crit. We've grabbed all the power charges, and we've grabbed all the brand nodes, plus the Golem node, obviously, the brand node up here. We've anointed the other brand node that we can't grab, and we've obviously taken Rune Binder because this is going to double your DPS on a boss, so that's definitely worth taking. The only brand nodes we don't have are these ones, which are crit and crit multi, but we're scaling a lot of crit and crit multi, so it's not that bad. And because we're using a staff, we're taking this huge crit staff node there. You can also take this here for some cast speed and some area damage, but you're going to probably have to drop something Obviously taking the multi up here, the area damage here, and like I said, we got this timeless jewel here to get corrupted soul, and then any bit of life we can grab along the way, as you can see. Yeah, this is just what I said is basically our layer of defense at the moment, so there is some better ways to do this, but we'll see in the future. Obviously taking all the power charge memes here because we're stacking them, so we get like a bunch of multi, bunch of crit, bunch of damage, bunch of regen. It's very nice. And in our cost setup, we got an Ellie one, a fire one, but you can also use an Ellie one. You're just looking for big Ellie. This one's really good for blinding. This one's really good for straight up damage, and you get like clouds, which I believe give them like less chance to hit you. You can also get like corrosive elements, like I said, but it's really rare, so it's quite expensive, that one. And also the leech, the damage leech does life node. I can't remember what it's called. It gives you like LE damage, and some damage leech does life would be really nice as well. For your mediums, you either go area damage or brand. You can go crit if you want, but don't really need it. Obviously on area damage, you probably want vast power and magnifier as a combo. Get big area damage for all your power charges and some area of effect. This gives you multi-area, and it gives you a bit of everything. And then brands, I would stack. If you're going to use brands, I would stack the Grand Design one, and then maybe a Holy Conquest. You only need one of these if you're going to use one of these. I don't think it's really that necessary for Armageddon Brand. This is really needed for Penance. It was just the one I made. But you can also get like the one that gives you a chance to create 2 brands when you cast. Or you can get the... Is it the attachment range one? It'll seek out mobs. And then there's another one as well I can't remember the name of. The medium brands are really strong, so I would recommend stacking those, honestly. I might even drop this. I think we have enough area, to be honest. Maybe just go another Grand Design plus something else. And then for our smalls, obviously life, and we're actually doing Surging Vitality rather than like Fettle or anything, because this gives 8% life, which is really good anyway. 0.5% more life regen, and it's giving us every 4 seconds we're regenerating 10% of our life. So we stack this, so we get 20%. So you'll see here in our defense, as you can see, life regen, so 529 in town, or in hideout, and you see there it just jumped up to 1300. So obviously when we're in the thick of it, this is probably getting juiced a little bit higher. Obviously if you get more vitality buff effect, or you get like the golems even more buff effect by using the amulet, you can get this way higher. And essentially what it means is if we get hit, as long as we don't get like one shot or get hit multiple times really quickly, and we get out of the way, we can actually just regen all our life pretty quickly. This rock's pretty... You'd think every 4 seconds was a long time, but you can see how quickly it goes up. Like, when it's up, we're getting about... we're getting like a health pot, basically, for free every 4 seconds. So, really nice, honestly. Ever since I made some changes, put those jewels in, used this, it actually has made me feel very tanky, even though I'm not really tanky. I suppose killing stuff before it kills you as well helps. And we've also got 1 point of spell damage leeches in, you should as well. So as soon as we hit something and we're not been hit for a little while, yes, we'll just shoot back up. You can also take this, I suppose, if you want shield not to be interrupted, but it will go up a little bit slower. It's entirely up to you. But yeah, I tried to rush this video. I wanted it to be less than 40 minutes, and I think I've almost achieved that. So if I have missed anything, obviously, yeah, spell crit, boom, 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 boom. I think that's good. There's obviously Watcher's Eyes and stuff you can do. So you can swap out like Zealotry for like Anger if there's a better Watcher's Eye. That's entirely up to you. And maybe slapping like a level 1 Clarity for something, I don't know. Watcher's Eyes are pretty powerful, but they're very expensive, so I usually don't fuck around with them. So there it is. If you have any questions or I have completely skipped over something, let me know down below. This was a little bit quicker, so I'm trying not to over-explain everything. I've done a pretty good job. I've probably still spoken too much, but it is what it is. And yeah, the POB will be in the description down below. I also stream on Twitch if you want to come watch me play live. Do that. And I also have a Twitter, so if you want to catch any updates or shit like that, do that. And yeah, if you've made it this far, thanks, you're a legend. And the next build I'm probably going to play is some sort of Winter Orb Occultist. I'm trying to make it as like a speedy mapper build, because I don't really have a speedy mapper build this league. So stay tuned for that, and then maybe some sort of melee after that. It depends. I've tried melee a couple of times now on my Berserker, but I'm just not feeling it. This game just does not like melee anymore, I don't think. Maybe it's just I'm shit. Who knows? But yeah, if you made it this far, you're a legend. And remember all that stuff I just said 2 seconds ago about the socials. And yeah, stay wide and stay safe. Peace out, boys.